one man saying that is fine. If that's your opinion and you're not in it, that's fine. But there is an entire market of millions and millions of people that agree that it is a store of value. So, you can think one thing, but there's also a market, and markets tend to become efficient over time.
We do know that you will always get paid in Hex on a daily basis. And that is truly the miracle that we call Hex, because it is trustless interest, trustless yield. Nothing will stop that contract from running.
Welcome in, everybody, to the Creed of Crypto live stream. My name is Boi Crypto. I have here with me, as always, my friend and co-host, Crypto Ewok. We already see people pouring into the chat tonight, so smash the like if you are wanting to support Real DeFi, wanting to support the channel. We appreciate you guys being here. Huge show tonight. We are talking a lot about liquidity providing on PulseChain. We're talking about Inc., the incentive token, which has been the hottest token, weirdly, on PulseChain here. The first 10x out of the core RH coins, if you will, in the ecosystem. So going to be really interesting to see what's going on with that. We got a poll question in there tonight. Just simply, have you been liquidity providing to earn Inc? We're going to talk about that. And if you haven't, kind of hook you up with details on how to do so if you are so inclined. Welcome in Patrick Sastro and stuff, DJ and Moon Boy. Everybody, welcome on in. Hit the like on your way in. But yeah, we got a big show. We got money moving around from the sacrifice wallets. We got people's emotions and getting their panties in a bunch. We've got all kinds of different stuff going on that we really want to get deep into tonight. We're going to have a full show for you, I believe. So when do the beards come off? I don't know. I don't know. Is that directed at you, Ewok? I don't.
No, I think yours.
Mine?
Yeah.
I mean, I have slight. I'm never shaving my. I do not go beardless. I don't like to.
That's right. See, beards store energy.
Yeah. I do not like to have the baby face. I'm not a fan of that. But yeah, how you feeling, Ewok? Well, you've been growing that beard. Originally was a PulseChain beard. You were not going to be shaving it until PulseChain came out, and you did. You did.
I
trim
did.
It up, I remember.
I trimmed it all the way off. I didn't trim it up. I cut it all off. I went down to.
You weren't bare, were you?
As close as the clippers would get. Yep, I went all the way down.
Wow. Okay.
I didn't shave, but I took the clippers to it, and
okay.
Yeah. And it's back.
Well,
it's back. You know, it only took it only took 6 or 7 months to get it back. And
yeah. You just realized that was your the way you liked the face to look in it. Yeah. Well, it's good. It's good. It fits you. PulseChain's out now. And maybe we'll create a new goal for you to grow it even longer in the future. It was loud on the podcast. I don't know what Patrick's.
My clippers were loud. I
totally forgot about that. Yeah, I forgot about you doing that. Okay. That was hilarious. I forgot about that.
But no, things are good. You asked me how I was doing, man. It's Tuesday night. Things are good. We got a lot of movement, some big things, and obviously in the main crypto markets, which we'll talk about, but everything else is looking pretty good. Little run up on one side is going to trickle down to us here shortly. I have a feeling. So
I think so. Excited. Yeah, I think so. Absolutely freaking insane that BTC apparently for a split second hits a new all-time high today. I don't think anybody would have had their money on that for March the 5th of 2024, but the strength has continued. We've been saying it for the last few weeks. I mean, you and I were for quite a while now saying that we think the dip is coming and that we're going to be going back into the 30Ks. I'm not necessarily going to go back on that. I mean, I am certainly surprised by this. I think you are too, Ewok. But I do think, we've seen a hard reject off of the all-time highs for BTC today. And I do think that for a while now, we're probably going to see some oscillation in this range and definitely lower. I'm not sure if we'll go the full 35, 40% down and get into the 30Ks again. But I think we'll probably get close. And I think that it's going to catch a lot of people that are aping back into this market. They're largely retail and maybe less experienced investors. I think it's going to catch a lot of them off guard. A lot of people are going to get hurt pretty pretty goddamn badly, frankly, over the next few months. But yeah, what do you make of this? Just continued bullish action, but I have to think this comes to a temporary end here soon.
Well, we were kind of talking about this, in the green room. Every time we say it's going to pull back, we've been wrong, and it just kept going and going, and now here's our pullback. Went all the way down almost 10 grand to the T from where it topped out at the all-time high there, and it just started retracing and it got strong again. So I don't know if this is a small fake out here. I don't know. The levels are still down. It's still looking strong. Other than the main sell off, which obviously was a psychological level for a lot of people, was that they may have had sell orders, which they obviously did. As soon as it hit it, boom, it triggered. It could have probably closed out a whole bunch of shorts and longs at the same time, is what I kind of think happened. There were people that were shorting because they thought it was coming. And then, if they didn't close out, boom, it came right back up. Might have closed them out too. So it's hard to say. I don't know what to make of it. I do think we're going to get some sort of pullback here before the halving. Is it now? Well, it could be. This could be a fake out, and then it retraces a little bit more. So, yeah, it's looking like a whole lot of uncertainty for me. I don't know what to think. I thought it was going to come back down, at least down to this level here at the 52 at some point, but we'll have to see here.
Yeah, it's utter insanity. It's got people saying a lot of wacky stuff. I saw somebody that I hold their opinion relatively highly earlier, saying that the ETH ETF is definitely going to get approved this year, which I don't agree with. But yeah, there's just a lot of people saying some really bullish things. I DM'd you a moment ago. Max Kaiser, kind of a notorious Bitcoin maxi, said that like 75K BTC is programmed by Friday, and it's
By
like
Friday.
why?
Yeah.
Well, why is that? Because you need it to. Okay, yeah, Hex is going to be 25 cents tomorrow. But yeah, I don't know. I think that people are just getting a bit ahead of themselves. I mean, the market's ahead of itself. I mean, I'm shocked at where it's at right now. So I don't care. I mean, I'm still going to take. You want to be ready for anything, but I still take the position that we're probably going to see a healthy pullback here. At the very least, just hanging out in this area for a while. I think that's just where we're going to be here. So it does suck. You and I were sharing the screenshots of the rare times that I do visit the cesspool that is Facebook today. But yeah, you're seeing high school friends and peers and stuff like that are, living the normie life that are now like, Shiba Inu, if it gets to $1, I'm going to be a millionaire. And it's just like, here we go. Like, it's so insane. And it reminds me of like all the talk about, I remember this chick that I used to work with that was like on Facebook talking about Doge during the virus lockdowns and all that crap.
Yep. Well, another statistic I saw, I think might have been Sami that had said something, but Coinbase app is ranked number 45 or 49 or something like that, and just a few weeks ago it was at 500. So I mean, it's a good sign. There's definitely people coming in. I don't think this is the major retail yet, but it's starting, and there are people that are paying attention, and I think every cycle is going to kind of improve a little bit with that. You know what I mean? It's going to happen a little earlier because now there are more people definitely aware of what's going on. And it doesn't take a whole lot of news because there are more people talking about it as well. So, yeah, I think it just happens a little bit earlier. I don't think this is the point where your taxi driver is going to, well, who knows? Because at one point, taxi drivers were all trying to get you into their favorite coin too. And that was pretty much the top. So,
yeah.
Like I said, it happens earlier and earlier each cycle as more people get aware, but there's still a lot of people that have no interest or idea. So
next thing you know, you hop in the cab and Travis Bickle's trying to sell you on the latest altcoin. Shout out any Martin Scorsese, Taxi Driver fans there. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. But yeah, I'm with you, Ewok. Yeah, I think we're going to see some pullbacks here and some people being incredibly disappointed that just got into this market because they left it whenever you should have been here the whole time. So that's just kind of the way the cookie crumbles. People have to learn. Let's look at PulseChain. So we have a small dip, as is normal whenever we get our show started here. But we have seen a rage pump, as it was dubbed, over the last week. Everything in the ecosystem was flying. Again, just like if you look at the thumbnail of the show, Inc. was the first Pulse ecosystem coin to do a 10x. Just insane. And we're going to get into some of the sack wallet money that's been being moved around and things like that right after we just kind of look purely at the charts here. But yeah, over this last week, we've seen some big pumping. We're now starting to see a bit of a correction on some of it now. Some big wallets that people monitor have been selling and things like that. But yeah, we've got Pulse at just ticked under the 3014. Pulse X is about 49% below the sack rate. But these numbers were higher, just a couple of days yesterday, really. We just saw kind of a dip today. Hex now at about 2.5 cents combined, 2.4, 2.5 cents. Inc. Might as well start mentioning that since RH is tagging it so much and, it's doing so well. But Inc. at 527 right now. So things are looking pretty good despite everybody getting upset on Twitter today. Do you want to pull up the Pulse chart and we can take a look at kind of where we're sitting right now?
Yeah, it's funny. Patrick just said, let's call it the Creative Crypto dip every Tuesday because we seem to get one. So
yeah, too bad it's not. We don't have a show on another day where Gwei isn't 275 or something like it was earlier today.
Right.
We're in the 60s now, though. We're at a measly 65. So if you want a bridge, you probably only pay $50 or something like that. So
there's the Pulse.
There you go. Yeah, and we will talk about that tonight. These ETH fees right now are just absolutely killing everybody. Getting over to PulseChain. So we'll kind of talk about some alternatives and things like that tonight too. But anyway, what do you see here, Ewok?
Well, I see a whole lot of stair stepping. I mean, it's still doing. We'll mention it every week. As long as we don't make a lower low, it's still healthy. You get a couple red candles and it just keeps we maybe on Tuesday, or I guess it probably starts on Sunday. This is the daily chart. So, you get Sunday, Monday, Tuesday here with the 3 down candles that we've seen over and over again right before the show. But again, still a healthy channel. It's, I didn't draw any lines on here, but if we stay in this channel and it just continues to go up, it's projected up into here somewhere 004. It's like 4x the sacrifice once we get up into this range, and that could happen, I guess, by August or so, July, August, if not sooner. If it continues at this rate, I should say,
right?
Of stair stepping. But again, I think this is healthy because we're still seeing some big wallets capitulating. I've seen it more on Pulse X, but then again, there were 3 times the buyers. So there was 3 times the coins out there, and we've got to flush that out. If you want this to rocket like crazy, you've got to get some of those weekend people out. And it's still only been 10 months. So we still have 2 more months to go in the 52 weeks to shake out all the weekends before we can run. And I think that's what it may take.
Yeah, I think so too. Would you like to pull up the Inc chart real quick just to take a look at it, since we don't typically do that, and we're going to be talking about it a little bit tonight. So Inc obviously is the incentive token. I mean, we've seen it really run up here, and Richard Hart's been, tweeting about it quite a bit. We're going to get into it even more, but just to take a look at the chart anyway. Okay,
here you go.
Is that the right one? Let me see here. All right.
Yep, it's the USD.
Yeah. Okay.
Comparison, but it's $5.26. We have had some big run-ups. I mean, you're looking at just from the bottom here up to today, 12x.
Insane. Yeah, I think it went as high as a 13x. Yeah. And I mean, yeah, you're seeing what you want to see there. I mean, obviously it was down only, and this whole avalanche down, you never would have wanted to touch it. And even, I mean, neither one of us, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think you have either, Ewok, but neither of us have actually market bought this token or anything.
No, but I've been earning it, obviously with liquidity, but
right.
Yeah, I mean, when something comes down this hard, there isn't a whole lot stopping it on the way back up, so
True.
that's a good thing. There wasn't a whole lot of resistance or people defending any kind of prices. There was a couple small candles in here throughout. There was one between right where we're at actually right now and $8.30. Like in between here, there was a little bit of a run up, and then it just continued. So yeah, I mean, there isn't a whole lot. I don't think there'll be a whole lot of resistance going back up either. Now, especially since the green candles are here, what attracts people, right? Green candles. So
right.
without a major player, I mean, there are some big wallets that have been buying, and I think that's why you're seeing this. And there wasn't anything really stopping it. So.
Yeah, and I obviously it seems like the all-time low is going to be in for Inc. I mean, I think that little bounce off the bottom that you see there in recovery is going to be the end. I mean, that'll tell the tale of when this thing started to go up in this market, and probably won't go back down there ever again. So, definitely looking good. I know some people out there are also buying Inc. Of course, some people are capitulating into it from other stuff, which I find kind of interesting. But yeah, it's mainly. I haven't bought any. I mean, I'm just earning it, like you said, with liquidity providing. So we'll get into that a little bit more as the show goes on. But good stuff. Looking at the charts, I want to look at some of these huge. So we call it a rage pump, which happened over this last week, and we've seen a lot of money been moving around with wallets associated with the sacrifice address for PulseChain. But it was initially injected with 22 million. Boy, when was this? I don't know. I have so many tweets bookmarked. I mean, it was over the course of this last week, but basically 22 million was injected, I think coming from various wallets over the last week. So we started to see that and there was a screenshot. I forget who made it, but there was a good breakdown of everything that was bought. So this is very interesting. Speaking of Inc., I think the clips were in sizes of like $300,000 or so each, but basically every major token in the ecosystem other than EHEX was bought for about $250,000, $300,000 or something like that. So yeah, everything started to pump after that, and people are, chasing the green candles, as you said, Ewok, and starting to get into the ecosystem off of that. But again, EHEX not bought. And I don't want to focus on a potential like negative or one of the things about that money being injected. It's obviously great that it was, and people are seeing that, funds for the sacrifice are coming back into the ecosystem. But I'm curious as to your thoughts. And maybe I can actually get that tweet and DM it to you, and we could share the breakdown. I'll look for that here. But give me your thoughts. Here it is. The one I got was actually from Motley. Let me send it over to you. I know a few people shared this. There, I just sent it. But I want to get your thoughts on the fact that by the looks of it here, so of everything that was deployed, it looks like I'm not talking about 300,000. Those 3 million each, actually. My bad. So which makes sense. 5 million in ETH. 3.5 million or so in a couple of the different stables. Here we go. And then like 400,000 or so in Pulse, 330,000 or so in Hex on Pulse, 300,000 in Inc, 300,000 in Pulse X. So I was right on that. But you can see the breakdown there, and nothing with EHEX. So what do you make of this money coming in first off, and the SAC funds being used to come into the ecosystem here? But what do you think about this breakdown in the DCA that we're seeing here, and the fact that EHEX was left off of the list, at least for now?
Well, I think the big reason that it was left off is because of the sell wall that's there. I think there's a little bit of hesitation knowing that, well, you can flip a coin, I guess. Do you want to get them out at these prices, or do you want to wait till they see things really starting to take off, they pull the liquidity, and then they don't sell, and then they wait for something higher? I honestly think you would rather get rid of them now. I know there's some capital deployed. However, we can still get the EHEX price to go up when you pull the PHEX price up. So, they are still somewhat bonded together. When a lot of these things are, there are pairs, maybe not on PulseX, but there are pairs out there, the PHUX pools that are there that tie them together. There's a lot of things that are still out there on other exchanges and pools that can help bond them together. So I think, it's one of those tough things where people sacrificed for PulseChain, free speech, things like that. And I think that's what you want to support. Will it do something on the other side? There's a possibility. I know there's a lot of money sitting there. We other than this move, just in the last 2 days, there's been 58,000 ETH that was purchased. So we still have to wonder what's going to happen there. What's up with that? People they've got a lot to say about that too. Because the average price of it is like $3,600, which is higher than the price is right now. So, I hear a lot of people saying, I thought Richard was the smart guy or whatever. Well, again, we don't know who's doing it. We can assume the ulterior things that they have planned. What if a lot of this is going to come over and bond things together? What if they do buy up that bag that the BankX holds, and you end up seeing the EHEX PHEX farm back, and it bonds it together? I think there's a lot of options right now that could happen, and it'd be exciting to see any of them play out. But Richard and his folks are always a couple steps ahead. So I wouldn't discount anything, but it's going to benefit everybody. And I think we're just kind of waiting for the right time. So. Yeah,
I think you make a great point. I do think it could be influenced by the BankX thing and the fact that you can make EHEX go up by not necessarily buying EHEX. So
right.
I think that's interesting. Because you don't want to put that cash in there for them to take it back necessarily. So
we talked about this before, and I kind of want to circle back to it because I don't know if it's possible or not. Could you pump one side, get the other side to rise, and kind of bypass that whole buy wall with the prices? Because you almost need to sell into a buy wall. However, if you have exterior forces raising that price, there isn't really a wall, right? I mean, can you skip by it? And I don't know that anybody has talked about this very much, but I wonder if it's possible to just kind of leave them behind. It wouldn't be a good thing, I don't think, because again, they would pull it and put it at a higher level. Rather than get them out now. But I mean, I think you could technically bypass that whole buy wall with things that are tied together and not really have to sell into it. So that's still an interesting thought that I haven't heard anybody really talk about.
Yeah, I think that is the risk if you're playing around with the BankX entity and you're trying to just put a bunch of cash in to surpass them and cancel them out. Yeah, you have that risk there of like, what if they just move the sell price up or something? I think it might be more helpful if it's just a longer, like more organic looking type process, just so. Like, here's the thing, and we've talked about this ad nauseum, but, BankX has shown their hand. That's why it's a bullish thing. Like, we know what they're doing. We know what their intent is. You don't get this on other chains, yada, yada, all the stuff we always say. I think keeping them in your pocket like that is for the best. And I would rather just we know what they're thinking. We know what they're doing. Let's let the orders execute when they do and move on. You know what I mean? But yeah, it is an interesting conversation. Yeah, but that whole pump really commenced on February the 29th. And then now, just over the last day, so you were just alluding to this, Ewok, and I find this conversation fascinating. So $122 million in ETH has been bought from these SAC wallets over the last couple of days. First off, I'm interested to know, why do you think there is now this accrual of ETH, especially up here at and this is what some of the critics of this move are saying. But the purchases of ETH that were averaged at about, and shout out, it's Martin, right? That account that we're following on Twitter that,
yeah, his handle storyteller,
17
17 or 19 or something like that. But
he's real good. And you said it earlier today, like a lot of these influencers or whatever you want to call them, they will kind of quote what he says and put it out, later than he does, and sometimes not credit him. And he's seems like the guy to have the alerts on for lack of another way to explain it. But
right.
But yeah, he looks like 3,700 was the average buy of ETH with these SAC funds. So again, naysayers are saying that, they panic bought the top of ETH and all these things. I want to get your take on this, Ewok, like that. This interested entity bought the top of ETH, and now we're going to start crashing back down, like we've talked about. I would just say that I don't look at it that way. Because I think there's a high likelihood it's already begun, and I wrote these notes before it began, but I think there's a high likelihood that BTC is going to dip hard after hitting the all-time high. It's already made a little correction. I mean, we're not, who knows? It's only happened today, but it made a pretty hard correction off of that pretty quickly. I think we are going to see BTC continue to dip like we talked about in the intro, and that ETH to BTC ratio, ETH was already kind of suffering a little bit against BTC. ETH also held up, people probably don't remember this now, but extremely well in the bear market. Like it did really well in the bear market. It was very strong. You can say, oh, they bought the top of ETH at this point or whatever. And yeah, maybe that'll be true for like a couple of days, maybe a couple of weeks. But I think when BTC pulls back here, I do not think ETH pulls back anywhere near as much. I think what we're going to see is BTC do a healthy, strong pullback over the next few weeks and months, and that ETH will not have as strong as a pullback, and we're going to have a continued alt season like we talked about last week. I think that ETH is going to do well. So you could say, like on the ETH to USD chart, like, oh yeah, the wallets bought the top or whatever. But in terms of the ETH to BTC ratio, I don't think that's going to be true. I think it's going to be ETH at a value actually against BTC. So I don't know. And there's probably more to the plan than that. I mean, we know nothing about what these people are thinking. So yeah, what do you make of it, Ewok?
Well, I mean, so it came from DAI, and I believe it was $216 million worth of DAI was the final total. So obviously it's, lost value against DAI, but you're right, against BTC. And what's it going to run up in the main bull run when things really take off? I think it's going to, if it stays there, and doesn't get bridged, that's the other thing too. We don't know what the plan is for it. So I think it's not really fair to second guess what they did because we don't know the final move for it. So I think it's going to hold up a lot better, yes, than BTC. It'll probably have better returns than BTC, and to have it somewhere, knowing that the ETF is just around the corner too. It could take off and really just surpass things, and I think it could have been a front run for that as well. Nobody's talking about that. I do think it got delayed again just yesterday or the day before. It's delayed, but Bitcoin was delayed a couple times too before it approved, and then once it did, it really just took off. I think this is low. I think we could see 12, 14,000, if not a little bit higher in the bull run as far as ETH goes. So, I think it's going to outperform Bitcoin. To get that kind of return from Bitcoin, you're going to have to see 300,000 Bitcoin to get that type of X's out of your money if it stays in ETH anyway. So, yeah, I think it's a better play. And I'm not really at this point concerned about the timing. I think things are strong enough where it's going to go up no matter what. Yes, it's going to pull back a little bit, but I think down the road, in the grand scheme of things, it's going to be just fine.
Yeah, and that was in response to the Grandpa Pulse comment about ETH going to 8 or 9K. Yeah, I think that is the probably like minimum bullish expectation for ETH. But I would want to be cautious around those numbers. I mean, most people think that ETH is definitely going to 20K, no doubt about it, blah, blah, blah. I would want to be cautious around those numbers, just like Grandpa Paul said. But yeah, I do think it could surpass those numbers. I mean, that wouldn't even be a 2x off of last cycle. It topped out at 4,800 last year, or last cycle. So we'll continue to watch ETH, but I would, I imagine that the entity that bought that ETH has maybe a couple of tricks up their sleeve and is aware of things like the ETH to Bitcoin ratio and things like that also. So yeah, we'll see. It's probably a local top versus USD here for a bit, but I'm not too worried about any of that stuff. So if you guys are here and enjoying the show so far, do us a favor, hit the like. We appreciate you being here. We do this every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're going to jump around to a couple of things. We have a lot of good stuff. Richard Hart had some amazing tweets. Like he was feeling himself big time one of these days. I think about a week ago. Remember that meme? From February the 28th, he had a whole bunch of tweets that we're going to get into. Before we do that, I do want to say this quick. This is out of the news of the boring, but it is an interesting boringness. So the expectation that the Fed rate cut in May, so that would be, I think it's the May 1st one. We have one here coming up, I believe, in mid-March, and then May 1st is going to be the next one. But all along here, not all along, but as of the last meeting, the results of what people think is going to happen in May have come out, and we've seen development on them. So at first, it had plummeted to the expectation of a rate cut to only 20% when it was over 60%. So, yeah, we're now down to a 20% chance expectation that we will see a rate cut in May. So that would be when the Fed would pivot. The majority did once think that. I believe it was well over 60%. Now it's the whole way down to 20%. So people are believing that we're now into the summer before we would see the Fed pivot, which is, you and I, dating back to last year, Ewok, have talked about basically between like March to July or August as the window when we will probably see a pivot. So that would still put us in that window. But now we're getting to the point where it's going to be in the second half of that window, which I think is pretty bullish, obviously, for the short term here. I mean, I think that's going to be another thing that adds into this whole kind of thesis of like, okay, Bitcoin just topped out, hit an all-time high, pullback of BTC, Altseason, ETH, everything runs here for a few months. And, conveniently, we don't see a Fed pivot until June, maybe July or something like that. So what do you make of this? I mean, it is interesting if they still do not pivot in May. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm kind of going on with, what they're saying. They're already printing money. Wars do that. So we know that kind of money is being injected. Another thing that I think is still strong for our side of things is there's a lot of discussion right now about the financial markets and how unstable they really are. Lots of talk about bank runs coming up here in the next few months because, the agreements that they have with the amount of money they're holding as backing is very limited. And people are starting to find out about it, that they don't have a whole lot of money on hand. And if you start to see some bank runs, we could see some banks go out of business. Which is another reason why people are moving into crypto. That whole scenario is starting to start to make people afraid. So they're not keeping anything in the bank. They want to put it somewhere where they see it's going up. It's, as far as the pivot goes, yeah, it could be late summer. And then, again, we'll get that pullback strong into the end of the year, probably, another rally. But don't forget, next year's our big year. Next year's the big year for everything. So, this whole year is going to go by pretty quickly once you look back. We look back, what 10 months ago was the launch of PulseChain. It seems like it wasn't that long ago, but
No.
it really does fly by. So I think it really doesn't matter at this point if it's May, June, or July, whenever they have that meeting and that it happens. If we get a pivot at that point, I think you're going to see a lot more people pivoting out of holding money into banks, just because, like I said, there's a lot of discussions that are happening about bank runs and people getting money out of there because they don't trust them.
What do you make of DJ Moonboy's comment here? How much will the presidential nominee impact this stuff? Which I definitely think it's going to have an impact.
Sure, it'll have an impact, and man, I can only imagine if we get 4 more years of the same thing. I think there'll be a revolution.
It would be funny. I mean, it would be not to some people. I mean,
not for the citizens here.
No, not really. But there's been some bangers of Biden on Twitter today. I probably just got us demonetized and pushed down in the algorithm for the. But anyway,
we got 120 tuning in, so that's all right.
Apparently, I don't know. I think there's a disconnect between StreamYard and YouTube tonight. I'm not sure what's legit here. But anyway, yeah, I can't imagine 4 more years of the same thing. Just purely based on like the person's capacity to live, frankly. Yeah, I mean, certainly like a Trump win would be bullish. And again, this is the thing I always like to say, like, I don't even, obviously, I mean, you could probably deduce which way Ewok and I are voting. But, not even to be political, I'm just looking at the chance for the markets to do better. And, obviously with a Trump win, markets are going to do better. I'm pretty confident in saying that.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree. I think things will definitely strengthen if Trump wins, and it's going to be a shit show if he doesn't.
Yeah, it's going to be entertaining either way. I am certainly looking forward to the debates. So yeah, we'll wait and see what pans out there. But yeah, so a lot of interesting stuff. 2024 is going to be a crazy year for sure. It already is it's pretty crazy. We had. It's crazy. That's all I got to say. A lot going on right now. Let's take a look at Richard Hart's tweets here from February the 28th, because there was a lot of, speaking of all this BTC stuff, he was talking about it a lot. Why it's slowing down, how the ETF affects it, and why PulseChain is better. He was, doing his normal thing, or he, talks up his own stuff, of course. Let me actually just go to the pertinent tweet here. So, okay, so this is the one I really wanted to hone in on. And I will DM it to you right now also, Ewok, if you do want to pull it up. There you go. So this is the one that really kind of set Twitter ablaze on the 28th. So Richard's saying 241,000 Bitcoin, question mark. BTC is up 30% from its ETF launch price 49 days ago. This is the opposite of what it did when I called the multi-year bear tops on futures launch in 2017 around 20K and the 65K top years ago for the Coinbase IPO. Notice how I didn't call the top this time. I guess I'm smart. Crypto Twitter is basically silent because they sold their coins to the bankers. You can't really blame them because the SEC only passed the ETF 3 votes to 2, and usually crypto is dumped for such large events. Also, there's the fear of sales. Say, for instance, Mt. Gox. That's been pretending to be a sell event for like 10 years now, which is totally true. Literally 10 years. Now that Wall Street is on board, if it continues like it has been, they could likely absorb all the sales anyway, which leaves you here. You've been in a bull market for a year and a half in BTC. BTC is up 4x in 464 days. And then he goes on to say Inc. is up 7.5x in 52 days. PulseX up 5.7x, 167. PulseChain is up 4x in 185. Hex, the laggard, is up only 2x in 52 days. In summary, Bitcoin's price going up is good for all of crypto, and the coins I founded are beating Bitcoin. If you're looking for better technology, better security, better throughput, better fees, better for the environment, better potential, you found it. Yes. So, and then he goes on to say, P.S. Since this is uncharted territory, it's not even certain that the dumps will look like, or what the dumps will look like in this new paradigm. Will Bitcoin still do a 40% dump, which is what we've been talking about, like it going back into like the high 30Ks after this all-time high? or will it take years just to do a 3.5x the old all-time high like it did 20K to 69K, maybe longer with less gains because it's heavier? Who really cares when we've got better tech and potential anyway in PulseChain? So there's been a lot of thoughts about that, and people are like, did he just call for 240K Bitcoin? And people looking at this tweet from every direction. So what I guess, if anything, obviously there's the whole flexing of PulseChain's better than everything else, which you're going to expect from Richard. That's normal. But in terms of some of the other stuff, do you interpret this as him actually calling 240K BTC? He says it at the beginning with a question mark. Is that what he's calling, or how do you interpret this tweet?
I wasn't sure. The first time I read it, that's what I thought. But, it says question mark. And then he goes on to say, that is what I think that would be 3.5 times the all-time high.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And what he's saying, will it take just 3.5 years? Maybe longer because the gains are heavier. I think that's his number. Just saying, 3.5x the all-time high, like 20K to 69K. How long will it take? I don't think he was calling that as a top number. I really don't.
Right.
I think he was just comparing the 3.5x of the previous all-time high. But I think it was more of a setup to say all this stuff is doing better anyway. Right. Here's where you need to be. And I think that's what this was all setting up for. Just to say that, yeah, hey, over here, guys, our stuff is better than yours. So
I do agree with you. I think it was like, here's everything that's going on with BTC and all the uncertainty around it, and what, he talks about the new paradigm and everything, all to basically promote PulseChain. I don't think that was like a call of 240K BTC, but my God, I mean, if that happened, I mean, everybody's basically doing great. So,
right.
Exactly. Yeah. So I found it to be an interesting tweet, and then he goes on, of course, to say how the tokens are doing. I then DM'd you, Ewok, his other one later that day. Is that did you already pull it up?
No. Give me a
What do you got? If you were going to say something else first, go ahead.
No, I wasn't.
Okay.
That's
all right. Take your time. I just sent you, he sent this a little bit later that also, I think, added some substance. This was last week on the 28th. He said Bitcoin bears are wrecked beyond all belief, which, yeah, totally true. It doesn't mean there's not dips in the game. I bet there still is. Bear hopes, market dumps from Mt. Gox. Yeah, Gox, various seizures from governments of the Silk Road hacker and Bitfinex, blah, blah, blah. Resistance of previous top. Here you go. We're seeing this today. He says resistance from previous top at 69K. Funding rates for future being high means many people are margin long. The issue for bears is the ETFs have done such serious volume and appear to be on-ramping fresh new Wall Street money high off their all-time highs in the S&P 500. So this part I'm finding interesting. He says, basically, in my opinion, unless the ETFs stop buying, it's very bullish. Then you've got the news that will hit the airwaves when BTC hits new all-time highs. It already hit new all-time highs in many countries with currencies not the dollar. Like I know the Australian dollar is pathetic, and it's over 100,000 there, I think. Anyway, he says, I have no crystal ball. The last bear hope is probably an S&P 500 dump from interest rate cuts, but even in that case, there's a month of lag usually, or maybe some Wall Street dude will just wreck the longs for a bit by fat fingering a sell. Welcome to volatility, only to the upside recently. Yeah, I mean, so no real way to take it other than bullish. I mean, he's talking about the influx of money from the ETFs being very bullish. So what do you make of that? I find this interesting. And, I think it was on his Christmas Day video that he uploaded that he also talked about the ETFs being potentially really bullish. So I find it fascinating. What do you think?
Yeah, that's how I took it too. I mean, just the on-ramping of the new money. And I think you're going to see that when Ethereum ETF gets approved too. So it's gonna because it pulls the green candles up. It's going to get more people excited too that aren't Wall Street money, that are just seeing green candles and seeing everything go crazy. It's on MSNBC. That's all they're talking about. With the you get more and more people that are I don't want to say fudding it less, but it is the topic of conversation. It becomes, the forefront of a lot of conversations. So yeah, I think it's very bullish. I think it's good for everybody, and yeah. But he says, "Welcome to volatility." When things go up quickly, don't forget they do come back down. So um, prepare to be, in the middle of all that stuff. The price. It's one of his famous quotes: "Is the price you pay for extreme gains is the volatility." So you're going to see some of that as well, and I think there's going to be some manipulation with some of these bigger entities now playing in the game, because they know how to manipulate stuff and get people to sell, and then they buy in a little bit lower, do it all over again. It's going to be very volatile, but I think the bottom line is prices are all going to go up pretty substantially.
I think so too. He continued that day. I mean, there were just so many gems. A little bit later, he sends a chart of let me just make sure what he did. Okay, so he posted the chart of Bitcoin and just part of his previous tweet, but he said also, while Coinbase and other exchanges went down, PulseX.com is doing just great, which obviously was true. And Coinbase has continued to have trouble with all this influx of normies coming in and everything. And then he said, and yeah, wrapped BTC trades there on PulseX. Why do you think he's now okay? Because there's been like a saga with this. I think he's mentioned wrapped BTC on PulseChain, on PulseX to trade before. And then I correct me if I'm wrong. I think you remember this one, Ewok, but then at another time he said something not so favorable about it, and it had this like gigantic red candle, and now he's talking about it being there again. I don't know what these shenanigans are, but yeah, what do you make of him just letting people know that wrapped BTC trades on PulseX right now?
I think it's just to get the word out. I really do. He's just doing anything to get the fingers to say, look over here. Hey, we're over here. And I'm pretty sure that wrap Bitcoin on PulseChain is still pegged, right? I know there's another version of it that was like the fake version that was way lower.
There is. Yeah, there's a like PulseChain wrapped BTC, and then
Right.
there's like
The real
BTC
one.
on. Right. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, so I think it's another way, because when Bitcoin network gets full, there's going to be a lot of fees over there too. I think it's just a ploy to get people looking, no matter who he tags, whatever coin it is. He's always going to say, "Hey, by the way, this stuff over here is better, and it's a lot cheaper, and you can trade your Bitcoin over here too." So yeah, I think it's just a look over here. He's very calculated with the things that he does, and uh, only to be the shadow on his shoulder to know what he's thinking and why he does what he does. I wish I knew, but yeah, I think that's all it is.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so too. I just find it interesting that he throws other things out there. And then we saw, off of that point, this wasn't really a topic, but we saw some wallet that apparently has 20 million in Link token, Chainlink, bridging six
Yeah,
figures into Pulse Chain yesterday, which I found interesting. I guess we can just talk about that real quick because
sure.
it's a similar topic. But yeah, I mean, if that is, and who knows what it is, who it is, or what their interests actually are. But if it is somebody that obviously could be fond of Chainlink, maybe, or maybe they're not, and they just happen to be holding it in that wallet. I don't know. But if it is somebody like that, man, that'd be so awesome if there's potential right there that somebody could be dipping their toes into the Pulse version of an ERC20 token, one of the strongest ones, like Chainlink.
Yeah.
Do you think we're going to see more behavior like that? And I think it could take just one big holder like
Yeah.
that of a strong ERC20 bridging in, and I'm not saying trying to bring the PRC20 to parity necessarily, but providing more liquidity to it, buying it up. What do you make of that? Because I think one huge holder like that could really make a difference.
Well, yeah, any large holder like that, they bridge it in, they back it with their other coins that they already have for free, could make parity. It wouldn't take a whole lot at this point because I'm sure it's very low. So yeah, one large holder that has that much money could definitely make an impact, and then say, hey guys, over here, well, I know what they're paying in gas fees right now on Ethereum, so I think it'd be fantastic. You get a couple of those guys in. It may take a couple wallets, or they say, you go do it first, and we'll see, how you like it. But it's going to definitely you got to be the first one at some point if you want them to come over. So I do think there was a lot of Link dumped early on. Whenever the thing first launched, people were selling and bridging out and extracting some value. But to see somebody like that now, I don't know what they did. We know the wallet came in, or did they actually bridge?
They bridged. I forget the exact number. It was at least like 150,000 or so, or more. Yeah. Now it wasn't, obviously you're not going to bridge Chainlink token. That would be moronic and you would lose value. But I don't know. They bridged stable coins out of it. I don't know. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see if what they're doing is buying up P-Link. I think that'd be pretty interesting. And it's been pumping. I mean, like some of the PRC20 tokens have been moving up with this move. So
sure.
We'll kind of see how that goes.
The rising tide, raises all ships. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with it and keep an eye on them.
Yeah. So we'll continue to monitor that. We're going to get into the main topic here finally now, 52 minutes into the show. But if you guys are enjoying the show so far, do us a favor. Hit the like. We appreciate you guys being here. We have an active chat tonight. Hit us up with anything you want to say. Let's talk about some of the liquidity providing that we have on PulseChain right now and the insane rewards that people are getting with incentive token. And I'll lead off really with just next day from last week. So February the 29th, RH said, have you considered these APR? And he has a screenshot of all of the farms that you can participate in on PulseX. He said to app.pulsex.com to run the app yourself, or if you don't want to be lazy, if you're lazy, use the IPFS link. And he basically just screenshot all the farms. Now, that was back when the PulseX Pulse farm was only at 12% APR. Last I looked, it's like 17, 18 now. And Inc. has, I believe, also continued to go up since that time. So Richard, and this is when I was DMing you that day, Ewok, but he was tweeting about these farms and highlighting Inc. a lot. He's been tagging Inc. more. And I just started to get this inkling, if you will, that it would be a good idea to up liquidity providing positions. So I, hadn't delved into it stupidly, I feel, for a lot of this previous bear market, and just upped what I was LPing just with that PulseX pool, which is really mostly what we're going to talk about. But, we had a poll question tonight, like, are you guys LPing right now? And the majority are saying no. 52% are not doing it, 38% are, and 10% say, what is liquidity providing? Because, don't be scared to answer that. I think some people don't totally understand how it works. They're afraid of impermanent loss because we hear about it a lot, and the disasters that can happen if you're doing it with like a stable coin and a token like Pulse or whatever it is you're interested in holding. But yeah, I mean, to me, now that I've, gone harder into it, I mean, I if I had a decent sized bag, I would definitely want to be getting these Inc. gains right now from liquidity providing.
Yeah.
Obviously, it looks even better now because the Inc. price has gone up, first to do a 10x in the ecosystem. But like I said, that tweet from RH just seemed to indicate that more may be coming here with Inc. So I know you've been liquidity providing for months and months now, Ewok, maybe the whole time the ecosystem has been around. But yeah, what do you make of the tweet from him kind of promoting it and what we're seeing with the options for LPing, what you're interested in LPing, and everything going on with the incentive token right now?
Well, first I want to address Liberty or Death's statement here. He says, I was liquidity providing for INC until it started pumping and I was losing chunks, so I pulled it. I believe that means he was providing liquidity for the INC pair, probably INC Pulse or INC PulseX. I think there's those two. With those, you're gonna probably experience some impermanent loss. With any token, you're gonna experience it probably. The one that I feel safest with is the PLSX Pulse pair, because I really don't care which one I end up with more of, because the ratio is pretty firm.
Right.
We all know it's right around 3-1. It's going to be like 2.75 or whatever it is, to 1, and it doesn't change a whole lot. So I think by doing that and earning the incentive token that way, it's a little bit safer. So yeah, like you said, you are going to have impermanent loss if you're doing a stable coin. I mean, right here's the rates we've got.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the PLSX. Now the rate is probably the worst one, because it's the less risk. I think, and that's why. And these are all on version 1 too. You have to be on V1 of the pools, but um, you've got the PulseX Pulse pair. It's earning 17.3. DAI Pulse is 130%. Now, again, this is one of those situations where it is very high APR, and you're going to have to pivot back in to get some of your PLS back as the price goes up, because what will happen is you'll end up with a lot less Pulse and a lot more DAI. As it goes up, it evens out and you end up with less in your bucket. Same with all these other USDC and USDT pairs. They're over 125% for the 3 stable coin pairs. But again, there's a lot of risk. There's a lot of maintenance to do, by rebalancing your rewards and getting some of your pulse back that you're going to lose as the price goes up. And as you can see, a lot of these will refresh constantly. So depending on who's adding liquidity and what's going on, in fact, they all just disappeared. So I don't know.
Oh, wow.
Let's
They're probably just being updated.
Yeah, they were
There
updating
you
and
go.
didn't catch up. So
Yeah.
I mean, so that is the one thing that I'm more of a kind of, I hate to say set it and forget it, because you definitely want to keep an eye on it.
Right.
But there isn't a whole lot of maintenance you have to do. Again, I don't really care if I end up with a little bit more PulseX than Pulse, or vice versa, because it always does balance back out as that ratio comes back in. Just remember what you put in and how much, and that way you can keep an eye on it. But yeah, I've been doing it a while. I was doing it on the test net. That's why I felt a lot more
Mm-hmm.
comfortable whenever this went live to do it on the main net. And I saw some of the benefits from it then. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so he did say he was
You were
providing
right.
for the ink. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. I mean, so you really have to just keep checking in, and then you end up using the incentive token to buy more incentive token.
Right.
So it's a weird position to be in. I do agree it would be a tough one though. A lot of maintenance to probably keep up. So I mean, there are other pools that you could probably do, but they don't earn incentive on some of the other platforms. You're earning different tokens, which if you want to do it that way, you know, again, as long as it's 2 coins that you don't mind which one you have. Like that's why I was really fond of the EHEX PHEX pair, uh, because I didn't care at that point. Was hoping they would stay a little bit closer in price, but they didn't. They pulled away, and that's whenever the pool was also removed. So,
Mm-hmm.
another reason why I'd like to see some of that Ethereum used to get them even, and then have that pool come back. That would be a nice add-on, I think.
Yeah, there's a lot of options here, and it's really up to whatever you want to do. But what you said is totally right, Ewok. Like if you want, again, not to set it and forget it, because you do want to make sure that ratio is still tight. But the Pulse and Pulse X ratio has been at that 2.5 to 1 to 3 to 1 very, very reliably for most of the ecosystem's existence. And Pulse X has gotten even stronger against it, actually, which kind of gives you even more confidence in it. But if you, like me, for example, like if you have an amount that you're providing and you make sure that you stick it to that ratio that it's at right now, say that you do, I'm just making up numbers, but say you like 100,000 pulse, for example, and then it would be for to match up with that, it would be like 250,000 pulse X or something based on the current ratios. So while you're watching your LPing, say you have your portfolio on Go Pulse or something like that, it'll show your farm right up there at the top, and you can see, like, if you started with 100,000 pulse, you can see the fluctuations. Like, Pulse has lost a little bit on Pulse X over the last couple of days, so it might go down to 94,000 and then 270,000 Pulse X or something. And you might panic and think like, oh man, I lost like a couple $100 in Pulse. If you just calculate all the Pulse X that you've gained in that time, though, it usually is a wash because the ratio is staying the same. So the numbers are still the same. Plus, you're earning all that ink. So, depending on how much you're liquidity providing, you could be getting it's insane how quick ink does stack up. And, with it being $5-6 right now, even juicier. So now we've got the Fox protocol up. So if you want to check that out.
So let's, we take a look at this one, and these are a little more interesting because you're not just double pairs, right? Again, if you're not familiar with, I'm not recommending people just go do this if you don't know what you're doing. So please be very careful. But there are some even safer options over here because you can pair wrapped USDC with Coast, for example, right? Stable coins that are both worth $1. They get traded in and out of all the time when people go back and forth and do different things because of the aggregators and how things are routed. So something like this would be a great way to just make fees. Now it's a little bit lower, and there's another bridged stable. So you're doing wrapped USD, Tether, USDC, and wrapped DAI all together as well. So there are some of these that are stables. There's another one down here that's a USDL. So you've got your liquid loans token along with USDT, USDC, and wrapped DAI. So those are a little safer. If you're going to play around with these things, I would recommend doing that first, just to kind of see how it plays out. You may end up with a little bit more of one than the other, but again, they're all worth $1. So unless the peg goes away, magically, then you would be kind of off sides. But there are also some other cool ones too. Like if you have there's the Maximus one where you have your PHEX, Maxi, Deci, Lucky, Base, and Trio. So all of the perpetuals they all have a pool. So when things trade in and out of there, it's neat to just see that. And some of these fees that you earn, they can get up there pretty good. So I don't know what the volume here on these pools was $757 million of volume here, with a total volume locked of 32 million. So, there's quite a bit of action that's getting funneled through these two for some nice fees. Just again, be very, very careful. I don't recommend it unless you know what you're doing, or even play with it on the test net first a little bit before you go over here and degen. But these are also a great way to make a little bit of APR. And again, with some of these stable coins, it's a lot less risk.
Yeah, definitely a good protocol on Fux to check out too, for what you may be interested in. But yeah, you must understand it first, like Ewok said. I mean, I wouldn't just hop into anything. Just make sure the math makes sense. Just like the ones we were looking at on Pulse X. I mean, like, yeah, you see that APR for Pulse USDC or a stable coin or something like that. But again, you have that impermanent loss. Maybe you could make gains from that. I'm sure you could for certain time frames, but you need to be actively managing it. And of course, you can pull it at any time. I mean, of course, like at any point, you can just pull the liquidity. But we're not really people who want to be monitoring it that closely. So shout out KD, appreciate it, man. One other thing I wanted to read. So Richard just tweeted this yesterday. Yet again, he's been talking about ink a whole bunch. He said, things people don't understand about ink. You nearly always have to buy Pulse or Pulse X to get it because that's the pairs people put their liquidity in. Look at the auto router pick to see a path, or you can farm it. The majority of the liquidity is also farming ink. The higher the ink price, the higher the rewards to farmers. Notice that every farming pair has wrapped Pulse except one. You see Hex and Pulse X on that list of farms as well. I don't link ink more than Pulse, Pulse X, or Hex, but it's gone up the hardest, and the chart is the chart. There's a chance it might bring a different type of speculator into the ecosystem. Who knows? So that's just when he tweets stuff like that, it's like something he's observing things, but also I think there's something going on too. I think there's something else up the sleeve. So do you have any takeaways from that?
Not really. Again, he loves the X's, he loves the green candles. He's just pointing it out to people, and how it is good for the rest of the ecosystem. And while we're talking about his tweets, since I don't really have much more to add, please be careful of the people that post right after Richard. There's 9 times out of 10 a scammer, and I've seen a couple wallets get drained already from clicking on the links that they thought were Richard tweeting. So please be careful. He almost always follows his tweet up by saying, hey, this is the last tweet in this thread. Report anybody below here that's an imposter. Double check the at where it says at Richard Hart win. Most of them have a little bit of a variation in one way or another. Some of them are just completely different and they just use the name. So please be careful. Again, I saw 3 wallets that were, pretty decent size got drained because they clicked on something they shouldn't have, connected their wallet, and it was gone. So they're going to get crafty. It's that time where things are becoming more valuable. Your wallet that wasn't very, very big could become very big, and they're going to do everything they can to take it from you.
Last point on this liquidity providing, I want to ask you, and I already obviously know the answer to this. I know you'll agree with what I'm saying, but I want to address it as a topic because people have, because of how hard ink has been running and people starting to understand liquidity providing a little bit more, some people are like, well, hey, I mean, if this is available in this ecosystem, it's all on Pulse. It's liquid. I can, harvest my tokens at any time with, paying hardly any fees. I can pull the liquidity at any time. Whatever, why would I mine or stake Hex, for example, when I could just do this? Look at all these advantages. Look at the APY for now, anyway. It's 17%. Well, my average Hex stakes might be around that percentage or something like that. I don't have to lock it for any said period of time. Should people be doing well, let me just ask you your thoughts on that, Ewok, because I have seen that narrative out there and people wondering that with this discovery of the liquidity providing and how hot it looks right now with incentive and everything. But what are your thoughts on people that would be asking themselves that and choosing to do it? It's fine to choose to LP, but doing it in lieu of Hex staking or thinking that it would be a definite better idea than Hex staking?
Well, I wouldn't do it other than I wouldn't say in lieu of. I would, if you're going to do a little bit of both, that's probably, diversify a little bit. Now, during a bear market, you're probably better off because your price is coming down. However, don't forget the Hex that you're earning. You've got to factor that in at the price you're earning it now for the future price of when it comes due. So I don't recommend it other than, instead of, if you have fresh crypto to use, take advantage of it because we don't have any. Why wouldn't you? So I'll put it this way. Stake Hex, earn your Hex. Stake your Pulse and Pulse Hex because there is nowhere to stake it right now and earn incentive. If you're doing both, I would say do both, but don't do one or the other. And if you're going to do one or the other, I still think staking Hex is probably the better play long term because those rates change. The more this network grows, the less of the pie you'll probably end up with. Right now, percentages are pretty decent, but again, for a longer than probably 3-year stake, you're going to outperform that LP, and you're not going to have to manage it. you set it and forget it. You do walk away on that one, then you don't have to check back. So, you get the price appreciation for it along the way, and the ones that you're earning now priced in at that future price, which we just don't know what it's going to be.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you 100%. I mean, they're not, I don't even really think they're comparable because one is going to fluctuate constantly in terms of the ratios. There's many, many, many other factors. The liquidity providing, when the market is, wait till the bear market comes back. You know what I mean? Like wait until we're down only and everything and it's terrifying left and right. Like you may not be as excited to be liquidity providing at that time,
Right.
Hex staking, obviously you're not even going to be thinking about it. It's there. You set it, forget it. You can't do anything about it. You let it go.
Yep.
So yeah, two vastly different things. And I agree with you. Yeah. I mean, I would want to be probably doing both of them and am doing both of them. So I just wanted to address that because I saw some people talking about that a little bit. We don't have too much more time, so we could touch on one other thing here. I guess it would be, I guess we could touch on this. Well, let's touch on this. So potential cheaper, and I know I haven't used these. You may have used them, Ewok. I don't think you have. But potential cheaper bridging to PulseChain options than ETH on potentially Binance Smart Chain, or using other methods of trying to bridge over into PulseChain, because these ETH fees are just absolutely untenable right now. You and I were talking about it the other day. It's like, how the hell can anybody do anything on this network in the bull market? And I know that we and many people have bitched about this for years now, but it's really ramping up now. And we're starting to see, I wasn't kidding earlier when I said there was a time where Gwei was $275 today. I was going to send cash out. I've been waiting to send some cash out of Coinbase, and it would literally, I think, was like $45 or something to send it out of there.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. So it's like, how can you even operate in this system? And, it's getting to the point where, like, to bridge to PulseChain, the fees from the Ethereum side, you're suddenly paying $50+ just to bridge when we were paying. I mean, I paid $6, a few weeks back. So it's very, very different now. What do you make of some of these other ways to bridge in? I was looking today. There's pulseln.com. I believe sparkswap.xyz might be one. There's a few. Check out Gold Key's Twitter for anybody watching. I know he sent out a list of some earlier today as well. There's that tokens X, looks like token sex when you go to it. I think
it's actually tokens express, which it's short for. So
when you bridge from one chain to another, it is kind of like token sex.
It is.
Yeah.
If you go to PulseCoin list and you look up the bridges, there's a whole list of them. Some of the ones, even there are other ones as well, but these are the ones that are listed. So Tokens Express is the one you were talking about. The problem with that, I think, is it's kind of low liquidity. So you don't want to do a whole lot at one time. I think there is a maximum to it, but you definitely don't want to hit that threshold. But the fees are so cheap that it doesn't matter if you have to do 5 or 6 of them. You know what I mean? You're paying pennies. So yeah, I think that's one of the better ways to get around these. And you're right. Gas prices, I don't think they've been lower than 60 for about a week now. I've been watching, and they've been up as high as what the hell, it was 380 earlier today.
Yeah.
So somebody asked earlier, what happens whenever when Ethereum is 8,000, 10,000, 15,000, what happens then? Well, it just gets unusable. I mean, yes, there's going to be people that are extremely wealthy, and there's a lot of people that don't care about the fees, but there's a bunch of others that do, and yeah, you're going to have to find alternatives. So luckily we have we have PulseChain, which is why it was created. Eventually that network could get just as busy. I mean, if everything works out the way we think it will, in 7 years, probably we could see some pricing get out of hand there too. May have to fork that again then and just make another one. So I don't know. I'm sure they have a solution by then. I'm hoping they do. But for now, yeah, some of these bridges that you can use. I know Portal X is another one. Sometimes that one's been down. I haven't seen uh, anything lately about it, but I know there for a while it was down. But the Tokens Express, the Portal X, the Block Blend is one that's a little bit. There's no KYC with that one at all for getting stuff over. Change Now and what was one of the other ones? Spark Swap isn't on this list either. Change Now is, but Spark Swap, I've heard a lot of good things about Spark Swap as well.
Me too.
Just different ways to, like I said, go from even BNB over to PulseChain, just to try and save on some of the fees. Anything you can do to save fees, the better. But just be careful. Don't go too far down the back alley to get over there, because then you could get rinsed, and it really doesn't matter how much you saved because you just lost everything. So. Yeah, there's a lot of good options. Again, this Pulse Coin list has a lot of good links for different things. They not only have bridges, but there's a lot of things like analytics and centralized exchange, which, again, I saw Pac-Man commenting how we need to be on centralized exchanges. I really don't agree with that, but we'll get there, man. We're 10 months. We'll get there. We need to we need to grow what we've got first before we start expanding onto that. You guys have the I want it now mentality, and I think we need to grow it organically and do the things we're doing. Let it build. Let the ecosystem take care of itself. And eventually people will start listing us. We will not have to go in and pay to be listed. And that's one of the things that we've really never done. I know Richard is not a fan of that at all. He does not like to pay to get onto exchanges. But if we make enough noise and become vibrant enough, people will start listing us. They'll have no choice. People will start requesting it. So
yeah,
just my 2 cents.
Yeah, we're getting a couple of comments from people that have used SparkSwap successfully, so that's good to see. I may look a bit further into that. I will bookmark that and check it out.
I've heard good things. Yep.
Yeah, it looks good. It looks like they have. I'm looking at it now. Yeah, BSC is on there. Pulse. They actually have Arbitrum listed on there too, which that could be interesting because I typically do onboard, unfortunately, into Coinbase, and then I know that they have Arbitrum listed as a network that you can send on from there, and obviously the fees are much cheaper. So, yeah, if you guys, if one of you guys has a moment, that was Patrick Astros and stuff, and Gunblazer, put a quick. Oh, there you go. Okay, cool. There, you just answered my question. So, Coffee has a video using Arbitrum instead of ETH. Sweet. I'm going to check that out. I was just thinking that out in my head, and then you said it. So, perfect. There you go. Gunblazer said it too.
Yep.
My man, that's what I'm going to start doing. Sweet. I'll check that out. And this is especially good for like smaller amounts. I mean, like, you could do it. I mean, if you're real stingy about fees and stuff, do it no matter what. But yeah, that seems like the way to go because, you can send straight from Coinbase on Arbitrum. So yeah, bought USDC from Coinbase and Arbitrum to PulseChain. I usually use DAI. I think DAI will still go through Arbitrum the last I've looked. So I'll check that out again. But yeah, shout out to you guys. I am definitely going to bookmark Spark Swap. That may be the way to go here. And just get off ETH. Like, just stop using ETH because it's just becoming untenable. So,
well, some of us have no choice. We still have the Hex stakes that were over there. I went to end one the other day, and it's still holding because I refused to pay over a certain amount. So it'll probably time out, or if it gets down into the 40s, it'll accept it. But I actually think I set it in the high 30s, so it may not ever hit. With the way things go, it's possible. I would have to cancel the transaction, but I thought I'd take a shot at least over the weekend. Because sometimes in the middle of the night on the weekend you get some decent rates and things tame down a little bit, but it didn't happen this weekend. It never got lower than 50, I don't think.
Right. Okay. Yeah, and to your point, sorry, I'm doing two things at once. I'm looking at Spark Swap, and if you go to Arbitrum, it does look like only USDC is the token on Spark Swap that you can bridge over. So maybe you have to use USDC if you're going to go that route. But anyway, to your point, Hex Girl just said this too. There's no alternative when your EHEX stake ends. Yeah, bridging is one thing. If you have these EHEX stakes, obviously, yeah, that's where you're at. So I know we've talked about strategies with that before, Ewok, about like just ditching the stake and buying Hex instead on the market or something like that. There's just not a lot of options at times. I mean, like, what would you do if you got to the end of the stake and you just were never able to do it for a dollar amount that made sense to you in terms of paying the gas fee? What would you do? Bite the bullet?
Probably let it bleed.
Yeah.
If it doesn't make sense, I mean, I still have copies on PulseChain, so it is what it is. I mean, as long as it makes sense and I'm making more, I will end it. And but there comes a point where, and that's one of the things I tried not that I knew what the future looked like, because obviously when we started some of these, it was very cheap. It was very cheap then. It was like $1 or $2 at most. You were starting the stake for 10, 15 cents, thinking that I put 2,000 or 5,000 hex out in the future. That who knows what it could be, but it turns out that wouldn't be enough unless it was over $1 per hex at that point. You have to have, but you have to have the capital first. It's not like you can take a flash loan out to do it, end your stake and then pay it back in the same thing. I mean, that would be nice on some of them, but you do have to have that up front. So yeah, I mean, sometimes what I'll do is, if it's too high and I can buy that amount for what it's asking, I would just buy it. I'll just buy more, but I would probably put it on PulseChain, because at what point do they fix it? We don't know. We hope they do, but it's not guaranteed.
Yeah, there's also, I mean, as the stakes go on, and hopefully you don't have tons and tons and tons of stakes that you're always on staking or anything like that. But as they go on, I mean, you could also just differentiate the way you're doing stuff. Maybe you could just bite the bullet on some of them, let some bleed out, and maybe just market buy it instead. I mean, you could just kind of hedge your bets, no matter what. But yeah, appreciate it, Philly. I think that's pretty much going to wrap it up. But yeah, there's so many ways to get into PulseChain, but the Ethereum ways are just becoming unusable right now, and it's probably only going to get worse. So we'll continue to look at solutions. I did just find that Crypto Coffee video. I didn't know he posted that, but yeah, 3 weeks ago, how to buy PulseChain with cheaper fees using Arbitrum and Binance BSC alternate bridge. So yeah, shout out to Coffee, because he is always coming in the clutch. I'll post that in the chat for anybody that hasn't seen it. He's always coming in the clutch with great videos that are very applicable. Yeah, Patrick's using Spark Swaps, fees were less than $5. Yeah, you can't beat that. So that's the way I'm going to go. I appreciate you guys. You helped us out tonight, so much appreciated. Any final thoughts at all from you tonight, Ewok?
I don't believe so, man. We covered it all. Just keep your head up. Yeah, things are getting good. It's we are going to experience some pullbacks along the way. Don't get too discouraged, and don't stare at your wallet every 5 minutes. It's not healthy. We did want to ask that earlier. We were talking about that whole thing. Is how many times a day do you look at your wallet, or do you look at the markets? I was kind of curious. Maybe we'll have that as a poll next week, so you can answer that for us. And
I'll put that in my notes. Yeah. How often are you fellow crack addicts checking your your portfolio? Yeah. All right. Cool. All right. Well, we appreciate all you guys tonight. Great show. A really active chat. Thank you guys for being here tonight. Philly, Jeff Sanders, Patrick, Gunblazer, Hex Girl, DJ and Moonboy, of course, KD, Liberty or Death. I appreciate all you guys being here. We do this every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. For my co-host, Crypto Ewok, this has been Boi Crypto, and appreciate you being here on the Creed of Crypto podcast. Take it easy, guys.